Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I am going to talk about some interesting things that I've learned over the past couple of years about sighted people. So I'm blind, I have congenital blindness, so I have never seen anything. I can see a little bit of light, but that's all pretty much I can see. So, I can see if it's sunny outside or if it's dark, kind of cloudy. But that's pretty much all. And so when I was younger, I could see a little bit more light, so I could tell, like, if there was a candle, I could see the candle, on a table, if I was close enough to it. But now I have lost pretty much most of my light perception, so I can only see, if it's really sunny or if it's, really bright, in a room or something like that. And so today I just thought I would come on and talk about some interesting things I've learned as a blind person, and just, some things that sighted people assume that we know, but we don't. So, I live in a very small town, and I grew up, with everybody knowing everybody. It's kind of one of those things, and kind of a small town kind of identity. And I'm the only, well, I don't want to say that. As far as I know, I am one of the only congenitally blind people in my town. There might be more, I don't know, but from what I've been hearing, I'm the only one that is completely blind, that was blind from birth, because everyone else that I know is either lost their sight later in life or, can see enough to understand, like, shapes and shadows, and they can walk without a cane, and, so they're not really, yes, they have visual challenges, but to me they're not really blind if they can walk around without a cane. Like, functionally, they're not blind, not what I would consider blind. So, a lot of the issue with sighted people versus blind people is a lot of sighted people assume that we know things that we don't. So to give an example, I didn't know that there were different brands of snack cakes. Like the little fudge rounds and all the different types of little snack cakes you can get. They come in different brands, and they come in different names. So, there might be like Lord Debbie, there might be, just like, different brands of the same item, just different brand name, and sometimes maybe even a different name, but it's the same type of object. So no one told me that. And they assumed that I knew, because what would happen is I would go to the store with someone and they would say, okay, let's go get some butter. And they would just grab the butter. And I learned that, okay, this feels like butter, so that's what this is. So, I get to shopping by myself, as I get older, and I'm just like, I need some butter. And so we go to the butter aisle, or dairy aisle, whatever. And the person that's helping me goes, okay, what kind do you want? And I'm like, butter. And they're like, yeah, do you want, like, low fat, or, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but, like, do you want, I don't know, like if it was milk, they'd be like, do you want 1%, 2%, whole, low fat, like, what kind do you want? And I'm like, I don't know, like, butter, and so, like, sighted people / everyone around me assumed that I knew there was different types of butter and different brands of things, because as sighted people, they walk through the store and they see all these different things and they just assume that I know, and I'm like, nope, didn't know that. And a lot of that is why, for example, I struggle with two-dimensional objects, because, sighted people can just pick it up. They have that perception in their head of what two-dimensional versus three-dimensional is. So if I were to draw something, it's a struggle for me. Like, okay, if someone takes a picture of an object and it's flat, like it's two-dimensional, and I just can't get that in my head that something that looks two-dimensional can be three-dimensional. So, like, like if I were to draw a table, okay, so like a rectangular kitchen table, I would draw a rectangle, and I would draw these long lines coming out of each corner, because to me, that's a table. And I don't know what a sighted person would draw, because I've never felt, a two-dimensional drawing of a table. But, like, I can't comprehend the idea that you can make something flat and you just, add a couple things, it turns into three-dimensional. Like, that's just really weird. I never understood that, and that's probably from being congenitally blind, and also, no one ever really explained that to me, so I just never have gotten that concept. Even this, now that I'm videoing, I don't understand cameras completely. I don't understand how, me filming this in my dining room, you all will see me as a flat object on your screen. That's just amazing to me. Like, it's so weird, and I don't know, like, it's a concept that I will never fully grasp because I am blind. Okay, sorry, I want to make sure I was directly in front of the camera. So, okay, another thing. So ever since I was a child until like literally 3 years ago, I thought seahorses were made up. So seahorses are like these little creatures of the sea, and they're kind of shaped like, I think someone said they're shaped like printed C's or maybe printed U's, I'm not really sure. But they have a very distinct shape, and I thought they were made up because the only time I ever heard about it was in stories, in books. People would talk about seahorses, and so I assumed they were fake. And I didn't know that they were not until a couple years ago. I was joking around and I said, yeah, we're talking about mythological creatures like mermaids and stuff, and I jokingly said, yeah, like seahorses. Seahorses are fake too, and they were like, no, they're not. And I was like, yeah, they are. Seahorses are fake. Like, they're not real. There's no such thing as seahorses. And I don't live by the sea, so I've never been to a beach, like an ocean before. So I'm just like, yeah, you guys are messing with me. Like, they really are fake. And so I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, they are real. I think a lot of that is just because, one, people, I never really needed to know for any kind of reason that seahorses were real, and people assumed that I knew. And a lot of that is, again, just, people don't think about that kind of thing. Like, I thought that chickens had 4 legs. I thought every bird had 4 legs, because in my mind, squirrels have 4 legs, and chipmunks, and they all live in the woods. So in my mind, birds had 4 legs too, and they would walk like a dog, have 4 legs, on the ground, and in between their front and back legs, there would be, like, where their back would be, right on their vertebrae spot, wings would be coming out. So like in my head, it was like, the wings kind of fold up and they spread out across the back and kind of go, in between where the back and front legs are, so on each side. And excuse me. And in my mind, I assumed that, they just flew around like that. I didn't know. And so one day we're eating turkey at Thanksgiving, and somebody was like, oh, I want a drumstick. And I was like, okay, that's cool. There's 4, there's plenty. And everybody was like, what? And I was like, there's 4, like, there's plenty of drumsticks. We can each have one. And they're all like no one wants to say anything because they don't want it to be all, weird, but, like, they're kind of cracking up, and I'm like, what? And they were like, well, there's only 2 drumsticks. And apparently birds only have 2 legs, and they walk around like humans, which is kind of creepy. So then I had to go find a bird and touch it, and I was like so shocked because in my mind I thought they had 4 legs, and so like I was like, oh, they have 2 legs, okay. And again, I think it's just partially people don't know. They can't grasp the concept of total blindness and how that shapes, and how that shapes an understanding of the world. So, like, okay, for another example, I live in a small town. We have a lot of Amish people around, and this is in no way meant to be offensive to any Amish people. If were a previous Amish, or maybe you're watching this, you grew up Amish or something. But so, okay, I went to the store a couple weeks ago, and I was with another person, a friend of mine. We go to the store, and she goes, oh, it's Amish shopping day, because a bunch of people that are Amish are here at Walmart. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of like in the back of my mind, I was like, how did she know they're Amish? Like, what the heck? Like, how do people know that? Um, and okay, to be fair, I've never like sat down with an Amish person and talked to them and asked them about like their life. Um, because you see all these TV shows about Amish and everything, and I just thought, okay, it's just a different way of living. It's no big deal. Different, religious views and everything, and that's life. No big deal. So I was shocked that my friend had said that she knew that they were Amish, and I'm like, how did you know? Like, that's just weird. Um, I assumed that she saw like horses and buggies, or because sometimes they'll have like a van that drives people, from the Amish country to Walmart, and so I just assumed that maybe she saw a bunch of people come in and she's like, oh, they're Amish. No, no. Apparently, Amish people dress very simple. They have like specific types of clothing that they wear, and it's very like plain. Um, and like the men wear like button-up shirts, like I guess what I would consider like a polo shirt. Um, and I was just shocked. Like I was like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't know that Amish people wore different types of clothing, and they were very, you could tell by their dress, and I was just really shocked. Um, I also didn't know that Amish ladies wore bonnets. Like that was like a whole thing. I was like, whoa, shocked. So after I learned that, I go back to the place I was volunteering at that day, and I come in the room and I'm like, guys, guess what? Amish people wear different types of clothing. Did you know that? And they're all like, well, yeah, like we know. And I'm like, wow, I'm so shocked. Like I didn't know. And so then I'm texting my blind friend who happens to live closer to Amish country. We call it that because it's just there's like a whole area of Amish around me, and so I'm texting her and I'm like, oh my gosh, did you know that Amish people wear this and this? And she was like, of course I know. Like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Um, and so then next thing you know, we're talking about hitching posts, because apparently hitching posts are like these metal bars that come up and there's like a ring on the top, and that's where you attach your horse. Okay, so in my mind, I know that a horse wears like a harness type thing, and it's attached to a buggy. I've never felt this, so I don't know. But in my mind, I assumed that you attach the horse to the hitching post, and you don't connect the buggy, because like that's a lot of weight on the horse, like what if it wants to move around or chill, like it needs some space. So we're talking about that, and I'm just like, yeah, like, it must be a lot of work, like getting back, getting your groceries or whatever, and then coming back to the buggy and having to attach it to the horse, and like, um, it's just like, I also asked if there was another place to park the buggy, and then they were like laughing, and I was like, no, seriously, like, you put the horse on the hitching post, where do you put the buggy? Like, you can't just like leave it there, because someone might take it, I don't know how they're going to take a buggy, but they might figure out a way, and, so then someone explained to me that horses are attached to the buggy. Like they don't detach the buggy from the horse whenever they hitch them up. And I was just like, whoa, like my mind is blown. And these are like simple things that no one ever thought of. That they assumed that I got just from watching other people. And because I'm blind, I haven't had the experience of watching other people learn things. And so like it's very interesting for me now as an adult to think about this, like even as an OT perspective of things. You know, like if I work with blind kids, I'm gonna have to try to understand what they don't know and teach them in ways they can understand. Um, because here's the issue. So a lot of people, they make models of characters, and if you've ever seen like a stuffed animal, um, a lot of them are not realistic. Um, like a, I'm trying to think of a good one. Okay, well, okay, so you get the idea. Like a lot of stuffed animals are not realistic. It kind of makes them look like they have arms and legs and not four legs. Like teddy bears, they looks like they have arms because of the way that they're positioned most of the time. They're sitting down, so like their legs are, like a human. They're sitting down, and then their arms are kind of up like this. So like if I didn't know that bears have four legs and they look like a dog, except they have different heads and different bodies and stuff, but they walk like a dog. Um, I would not have known that bears don't look like they have arms because models and stuffed animals have that shape and that idea, and so like sighted people can understand that that's not an accurate model of a bear. And if you're totally blind and that's all you've known, if you've never actually gone and touched a bear, which I have not done, I have touched a taxidermied bear, which was really awesome. You don't know. So like seahorses and like animals of the sea, I haven't touched them, so I don't know. Like sand dollars, I thought they were fake. I thought they were just like little clusters of sand that just kind of gathered into a really cool shape and you could take it home. And so I was reading this thing one time and it was like, here's how to catch sand dollars on the beach. And it was talking about how they have their feet come out of the little top of what would be the flowery pattern. That's like their feet that comes out, and they have teeth. And I was just like, these sand dollars that I thought were made out of sand have teeth. Like what? These are real? And I was just like, I remember I was reading this story on the bus one time and I was coming home from the blind school. Because I grew up in public school, but I also went to the blind school on occasion, and I was just like mind blown because I was like 13 and I didn't know that sand dollars were actually real, like live animals. And so I get off the bus and I'm like telling my mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned that sand dollars are real. And she was like, of course they're real, what'd you think? And I was like, they have teeth and they have little feet that they can, they move around. And I was just like, whoa, they're real. Like, I thought they were not even alive. I didn't know. So yeah, I was really shocked, and I don't have anything to compare my worldviews of blindness versus sightedness. Like I've never seen, so I don't know. Like colors, those don't mean anything to me at all. I do know that bright colors like stand out, so I'm just like whenever I get my sunglasses, I always want to get the brightest colors. That way people are like, ooh, cool. Because in my mind, people are gonna stare, so I might as well let them stare at something cool like neon green or orange or really, really bright pink. Because why not? I don't know what those colors look like, so look at me, I'm wearing pink sunglasses. I think these are pink. Anyway, so, if you're blind and you don't know certain things, don't feel embarrassed, because that's the big thing, is like, I feel like a lot of sighted people, if you don't know something, they make you feel like you're stupid for not knowing. And it's not really your fault. I mean, you can't see the world around you, so you don't really understand some things. And there's no shame in that. Like, that's just life, Like, if a deaf person who had never heard anything before was trying to understand, certain sounds, and, they're never going to grasp that fully. They're never going to get that concept of, this is what this sounds like. And, you have an idea in your head of, like, what it might sound like, but you don't know because you've never heard sounds. And, I think it's the same with any disability that's congenital. You don't know. And so, you think everything's normal. You're like, oh, there's only one type of snack cake, I also didn't know that the value of change is on the coins. So next time you get a coin that's American coin, look at it. Apparently it has the numbers on it. Like I'm sitting here going, somebody was explaining what a coin looked like a quarter or something, and they're like, yeah, over here it has 25 cents. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, it has 25, like the number right here on the quarter. And I was just like, whoa, like seriously, like we don't need that. You can tell by the size and the shape. Well, I mean, not the shape, but like the size of the coin and the weight of it and everything. And they were just like, oh no, but it says right here. And just like, I didn't know that there were signs and like words on cups. So like somebody got a coffee from McDonald's the other day and it said hot coffee. And I was like, seriously, they have a word on the cup that says coffee? Like it should be obvious because of the smell. And I didn't know. I just assumed that people just kind of figured it out. Like a lot of things that people can learn about in other ways, they don't because they're sighted, and so they just, like there's a sign like streets. I didn't know that people I thought people would walk around and they would understand streets, like they'd memorize, okay, Elk Street and um, I don't know, Moose Street. Like the Elk Street's first, and then you walk along Main Street and there's Moose Street. You know, like I assumed that they understood that in their heads, but no, like there's signs on every single street that says this is Elk Street, this is Moose Street, and I'm like, whoa. So like I was walking with someone and they were like looking at the street signs, and I'm like, why do we need signs on every single street like that? No, we don't. Like, people, come on. Like, you don't need to. Like, whenever you're walking, you shouldn't have to go, oh, okay, let's see what this street is. Oh, let's see. Like, if you've grown up in the area and you've walked the streets 100 times, you shouldn't need the signs, like, to tell you. And just like the lights, like the stoplights, I don't think people should need the stoplights when they're walking, because I guess there's like this symbol that it's like a person walking, and it's like, you can walk now, you can walk now, and it like flashes, and I think it has a different color or something, and that way it's like, walk now, go, 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 you know. And in my mind, I'm just like, because I've never seen that, so in my head, I'm like, okay, everyone listens to the traffic, that's how they go across the street. And so someone had to sit me down and explain to me that that's not how sighted people cross the street. They look at the traffic light and determine when it's green and when it's red, and it has different colors. And you know, that's when they know when to go, and they don't really listen for the traffic. They just use their sightedness, and you know, they just go, and that's just weird to me. Like, I also didn't know that. See, I thought that lights were like this huge pole, and the whole thing turned green and red and yellow. But apparently not, because apparently only like part of it turns that color, and I'm just like, wow, okay. Like, my mind is just so shocked by some of these things, and I just, you know, it's not something that I think about all the time, but sometimes I'm just like, wow, these people get along so much better if they were blind for just like 5 minutes. Like, you know, you don't need a sign, like, that says cereal aisle whenever every single box in the aisle is cereal. Like, I don't know, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Okay, like driving sounds awful. Like, I don't know how you all do it. Like, I would be panicking because, like, okay, you're driving in this car and it's huge. It's like a huge car. Like, that's a lot of power, and you're like driving and you have to like watch other people, you know, because you don't want to like crash into them and they don't want to crash into you. So you're watching other people and you're watching the road and you're trying to figure out where you're going, and you have to make sure you're not pressing the wrong button or, you know, pedal on the ground, you know, like the brake or the gas pedal, whatever. So you have your feet, and you have to know what way to go for your feet, and then you have to like use the steering wheel, which is very weird to me because it's round. So like, I don't know, I feel like it would make more sense if it was like a bike where the handlebars, because in my mind, okay, I don't understand what straight actually is as a visual thing. So in my mind, like, I can't understand the steering wheel being straight because it's round. Like, how in the heck can you make sure it's straight? Like, how do you know? So you're like driving, and you're like turning the wheel, and you're like watching the road, like that just. Oh, and then in the background you have your kids going, "Mom, I want some chicken. Mom, can we go to McDonald's? Hey, Mom, Mom," and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, that just, oh, that's a lot. Like, if I were sighted, like tomorrow, I would be like, driving would be so cool because you could be free. Like, you don't have to depend on someone else to take you anywhere. But I don't know if I would want to drive because that just sounds stressful. Like, what if you press the wrong pedal, or like you you know, you turn the wheel too much and you like go over to the side of the road, and it just, vision is such a hard concept for me to understand. And like, I get it from a concept perspective of, you know, what visual scanning is and like reading and stuff. I understand to an extent, but I've never seen, so I can't fully grasp that. And I think some of the issues with well, I don't want to say issues, but some of the arguments I've had with some sighted people it's always been related to that kind of concept. Like, I don't understand because I'm blind. So like, for example, okay, so one time we were preparing for active shooter drills, excuse me, at school. And so the whole thing was, you're in an active shooter drill, but it's real. What do you do? Where do you go? Where do you hide? And so in my mind, I'm just like, okay, so you can just hide behind this trash can. It's a round trash can. You can just crouch down behind it. Well, apparently, if it's round, people can see around it. If you hide in a hallway, apparently, people can see straight down the hallway. And if you hide in the bathroom, apparently people can see under the door, which kind of makes sense because it's like, if it's a stall, it's kind of open. But like, how in the world do people do that? Like, they can see down the hallway. Like, my mind is just... Oh, and they can even see, like, when you're driving your car, they can see you in your car. Like, that's just so weird to me. And if you're watching this as a sighted person, you probably think this is just weird because you never thought about that. But, like, okay, so, like, for my idea, okay, so, like, for example, I've heard that when you get closer to things, things seem bigger, but when you get further away, they seem smaller, from a visual perspective. In my mind, everything is the same, because this table, right here, hey, it's not real, it's fine. Beacon's like, someone knocked. It's made out of wood. This table is wooden, and it's not going anywhere. Like, I could move 20 feet away, Beacon, and it would still be, Beacon, enough. Enough. Sorry about that, guys. She just wanted to bark. So anyway, I could stand 20 feet away or 300 feet away, and this table is still going to be the same. And I never got that idea. Like, people can't see, if they can see down a hallway, then why can't they see 300 feet away? They can see a deer that's running across the meadow, which, how do they know it's a deer if it's that far away? I don't know. But they can't see this table if it's 300 feet away. Like, my mind is just shocked by that idea, and I can't fully understand it, because I've never seen, so I don't know. And like, for example, Beacon, chill, sit down. No? Okay. So, it's hard to grasp as a blind person some of these things that people just assume that we know. And, a lot of that is just like kids growing up, and they watch their parents, they watch other people do things, and they get that, they understand. So, for me, I grew up with a gas stove in my home, so I assumed that electric stoves were the same thing. They just went by electric and not by gas. And so in my mind, I'm like all excited because I'm getting an electric stove, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get this electric stove and it's gonna be great, and like, I'm pumped up for this, right? And so I get to my college apartment with this electric stove, and I'm just like, whoa, this isn't like, it's not humming, because you know how with the gas stove it kind of hums a little bit. And I'm like, is it on? Like, there's no sound. And they were like, yeah, it's on. And I'm like, no, it can't be. Like, this is not right. And no one ever told me, because they didn't know, and I didn't know. Gas and electric look very different. Visually, like, gas, there's like a flame that comes out, and like electric, it's not. Apparently it's not a flame. I don't really know how it all works, but apparently there's no like pilot light that you have to light, which makes sense because it's not gas, it's electric. But just the idea that things are different that no one ever explained. Like, I didn't know that there was a microwave that had a dial that you turn to set your time. Like, apparently that's like an older thing, but like, wow, like, that's just weird to me. And like, what's another one? Like, certain things I didn't know that have like lights on them. Like, okay, there's these little fireworks you can buy at pretty much anywhere. They're these little round, they kind of feel like really small fruits. Imagine like really small fruits, but they're made out of paper. Okay, so there's like a little thin stem of the fruit, let's say, and then at the bottom there's like a little ball. Okay, and so you throw these down on the ground, and they pop, and it's just like that, and that's it. So when I was I don't know, probably like 9, I went to this really large concrete area and I started throwing them as hard as I could on the ground. And as I was doing it, I looked down and I saw this flash. And I was like, huh, weird. So I threw another one down and it flashed. And I was like, where in the world is this flash coming from? So I'm like running to my mom and I'm like, something's wrong, like there's this flash and I don't know. And she was like, the fireworks make a flash when they explode. And you know, I knew that whenever you light a firework, like a big one, it does flash, you know, because I could see light. Well, around that time I could see enough light to see fireworks. But I assumed that these little bitty fireworks that you throw down on the ground, they didn't flash because I've never seen them flash and no one ever told me they did. I assumed it was just the sound. Nope, there's a light. And I was just like, whoa, like that's just shocking. So, you know, like, if you're a sighted person and you're watching this, and this is interesting to you, because it is very interesting to me to kind of figure this out, you know, drop your questions, like, feel free to ask whatever. I'm very chill, very open about blindness and life in general, and, you know, I understand things from a concept perspective of vision. So, you know, as an OTA, I understand, you know, reading and stuff, even though that's really weird to me, like, oh, I understand it, like, with my brain, but I can't process it fully because I've never seen. So, like, I didn't know that, when you all read, you know, things are bigger and things are smaller, and then, like, there's different ways of writing things. Like, you can have different types of letters, like cursive and regular, and you can, like, scan for things. Like, that's such a weird thing. Like, you can, like, look in a book and find, excuse me, certain words, or, like, you can kind of skim over and pick out certain things, and I'm just like, my mind is blown, because as a braille reader, you can't really do that, because everything's all the same. Like, it's the same size, you can't make things bigger or smaller. The only thing you can do is make space to show, like, empty space means something important, you know, like different chapter or whatever. But the idea that you all, as sighted people, can do that visually, and you know, like, okay, this is important because it's bolded or it's highlighted, which I don't really get what highlight means, but okay, whatever. It's shocking, and it's really kind of frustrating as a person who went to college and everything, because, like, man, I spent lots more time on stuff because I couldn't skim and scan. You know, you have to read the whole thing because you're blind, and they don't make different types of braille, you know. But it is what it is, you know, and it's just a struggle because, like, for me, for example, I had to do some papers that were APA and MLA formatted, which are just different types of formatting for print. So I'm, like, explaining to my professors that if it's wrong, I apologize, and I had someone look it over and stuff. And I was explaining to my professors that as a blind person, none of that matters. Like, you know, headings and centered lines and page numbers in the corners of the page, like, how does it even work? And, like, bold lines and hanging indents, like, none of that means anything at all to me as a blind person. So I could write this great, awesome paper, and it would have no formatting, and everybody was like, it's wrong, and I'm like, no, it's not, like, none of that means anything. So finally I sat down with my professor one day, and I said, okay, here you go. I said, here's what Braille is, and I explained all that, and they were very shocked because they didn't understand that Braille has none of those things, because all it is a different way of writing. It's touch-based, and it's, you know, words, that's all it is. There's no special way of formatting anything, you know, centered line and all that. Like, technically, yes, there is, but as a blind person who reads only Braille, never read print in my life, you know, technically, yes, there is a way to bold things in Braille, but it's just like adding an extra dot. It's like, so there's no way to make it, like, bigger physically, you know. And my professor finally understood. He was like, oh, that makes so much sense, because Braille is just it's just not a language, it's just a text, basically. Because bold formatting and highlighting and underlining and circling and marking and all those things are just print. They're visual. So anyway, I was very shocked, and I was glad he understood. It was great. It was just really weird for me because I don't get why all these things matter. Because I think the content of the work should matter more than what the look of it, visually. Just like PowerPoints. I never understood PowerPoints because it's literally words on a screen. You make them look appealing, but what's the point? Like, I could make the best PowerPoint in the world, have all kinds of facts and figures and everything, and somebody would be like, "Oh, I don't read this. This looks boring." And I'm like, it doesn't. It's not. It shouldn't matter what it looks like. Just read it, Um, so yeah, I find this very intriguing and very interesting from a psychological aspect as well. How that not having vision kind of affects socially and psychologically and everything. And, I think I struggled a little bit with especially in school, for example, whenever we'd have art time, because colors meant nothing. It was all texture. And so, whenever we did like texture things in school, that was fun. Like we did, raised things and different things, raised line drawings and that kind of thing. I thought that was neat. I thought that was great. But, people would sit there and they'd be like, okay, let's watch this movie of whatever. And they would show paintings and all that stuff. And I was like, what is so special about a painting? Like, it's just a piece of paper that someone made lines on. And, now that I'm 22, I understand that things can be pretty visually, they look nice, and like stained glass probably looks really nice. I don't know, it just sounds nice. But if I went to a museum, I'd be very bored because if it's paintings, there's nothing to feel. So anyway, I'm almost done with this video. I just wanted to talk about some visual concepts that I didn't learn growing up and still learning about. Cameras are definitely an issue. I didn't know, okay, that you can, like, okay, if I'm videoing something, people can see what's behind me and what's around me, and like, I just thought that the camera kind of angled in on one person. I didn't know that it got all around. And so like, that was like very shocking to me, and I was like, whoa, okay, cameras are cool, and also very, very, it's very easy to get something that you don't want to get in the camera, apparently. So like, once I found that out, I tried to make sure I didn't have anything very obvious in my videos, like, oh, I'm at this place in this building. I didn't know that people could see that far with a camera. So yeah. I don't think I'll ever understand fully what vision is. You can see down hallways, you can see long distances, except if it curves. If you're walking down a hallway and you can see all the way to the end, but if there's like an angle to it and it kind of curves around, you can't see around the corner, which is very weird to me because, everything is touch, everything is physical. So the hallway turns, it's still the same hallway in my mind. It's still, it just turns around a corner, so why can't you see? Like, that shouldn't be an issue. But apparently it is. And so I just find that intriguing as a blind person, that you can see down hallways, you can see to drive. You can even see if, you can see clouds. Like, you can see clouds, you can see, if there's, like, grass and part of it's, like, mowed and part of it's, like, really tall, you can tell. And you can take a book of pictures and you can look at them and you can tell exactly what something is by the look of it. And, like, the whole idea of perspective, like, okay, if I there was, like, a book that someone wrote, it's actually really good, it's called, Love and First Sight. It's really good. It's about a person that gets their vision after being congenitally blind. It's really cool. But they're doing um, these shapes. They have this like shape sort of thing that children have, and he was going through them, and um, there was a triangle, and the triangle was turned on its side, and so he didn't understand visually that there's a difference what it looks like. So if it's something on its side or something straight, it looks different. And I'm just like, whoa. Like, because in my mind, everything's by shape, so obviously it's a triangle just by the feel. But I can't understand fully that something looks different the way it's turned. So like if you have I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like a certain animal or a certain person or something, if they're turned away from you, you can't really tell what they look like or what it is. And that's just really hard for me because it's all feel. So everything has three-dimensional, and so it's so different, and it's not easy to understand. So like, I guess the whole point of this video is to explain that if you're raising blind or really any disability, with your kids and your parent or guardian, or if you're even a part of a child's life that has a disability, don't make them feel stupid for not knowing something, but try to get them exposed to it. So like, for example, I've never seen a lion. Like, I went to the zoo and everything, and I got to maybe touch like his head or something. But I've never felt the whole lion. I can't understand how big a lion is. Or for example, like semis. I don't understand how big semis are because someone said it has 18 wheels. And I'm just like, okay, I know that a car has 4, so like, I just imagine like 5 cars. Well, actually 4.5 cars. And like, I can't get that in my mind because I've never went up to a semi to touch it. And you can only touch certain parts of it. You can't touch the whole thing. And then, I mean, technically I guess you can because they make little models. But the issue with models is, again, they're not always realistic. So I actually was looking on Amazon a while back, and I found these models of animals, like zoo animals and safari and stuff. I was gonna buy them because I wanted to see what they look like lions and tigers and different animals that I can't touch, like alligators, crocodiles, seahorses, seals, dolphins. I don't understand those. Even ships, like ships are hard to get, like Titanic. I can't picture a boat, which in my mind a boat is like just a big, basically a giant bucket, but smaller. It's not as deep, like a big shallow bowl kind of thing on the water. That's what I picture a boat. Okay, I know that it's not fully that. I know it looks different, but in my mind, it's like they took a bowl and they put seats in it, basically. And they say, here you go, you can have these oars, you can have a motor on it, like it's bigger, but, it looks like that. And so, like, for people to explain that a ship has food, and it has, like, a buffet line, you can go in, there's, like, different decks, and there's different levels, and it's like a house on wheel, or on, not wheels, on, whatever makes it float. And, like, it's hard to understand that from a blindness perspective, because I've never been on a ship, never been on a cruise. Even if I was on a cruise, I don't think I can fully appreciate the idea of what something is, because you can't always make models of everything. Like, for example, my house. I didn't know. I've never lived in a town before where you can do this, but I didn't know that, like, I can't walk around and point. If I'm outside, I can't walk around and point to where the inside wall is. I can't be like, oh, here's the dining room. Oh, here's the kitchen. Like, I can't do that because I don't have the understanding, inside versus outside, of how things are laid out. Like, I can't fully grasp that because, like, the kitchen is inside and out here's this random wall, you know. Um, so as a blind person, I have struggled with that, and it's caused some issues, and not a lot. Just on occasion, it'll be like someone will be like, "Oh, go to the side of the house and get me blah blah blah. It's by the wall to the blah blah blah," and I'm like, it's different. It's feels different. It's outside, like it's not the same. And you as a sighted person can look out the window and okay, over here against this wall is the kitchen because I see the window or I see the whatever. And I can't get that in my head. Like, it's such a weird thing that you can go outside and know exactly where you are, um, inside your house. So, okay, I'm gonna stop now. But I just wanted to record and let you all know how things are going with this video, and feel free to comment because I would enjoy reading some of them and figuring out, as blind people, what you don't know, or even as sighted people, what you didn't understand that we didn't know. So anyway, thank y'all for watching and have a good day.